So I'm going to be talking about vulnerable groups in the workplace. Specifically, I'll be talking about women. So women in the workforce, in World War II, around that time era, 28% of adult women were working. And now it is raised about 20% to in 2016, 70% of adult women are now in the workforce. This is due to women needing to provide for families or for other reasons, becoming more independent in their own earnings. And often when they do enter the workplace, there are earning differences. So women will earn less than men do. 80 cents to the dollar is what the comparable pay is from women to men. There is pay equity that is projected to happen in 2058. This is about 20, 30 years away, and this is too little of a change and too late. 30 years is too long of a time to continue to have gender wage gap discrimination. And gender wage gap is a descriptive term that outlines everything that I just said before, where women face discrimination and they do not get paid for the job title that they have, the level of education, and the position that they hold. So next, family responsibility discrimination is also called caregiver discrimination, and this is when the employer fails to accommodate for pregnant women, parents, single parents, and so on, who experience family issues outside of the workplace. Often this happens when women are pregnant, and if a higher up or a direct manager is male, the accommodations aren't always attended to as well as they should be, because there is a lack of understanding. So African American and Hispanic women often face larger disparities in managerial positions than Asian and white Americans. So they will not hold manager positions as often as white and Asian women do. So some policy in regards to women in the workforce has to do with clashes in the free market. So oftentimes there is a lot of resistance from the free market to discrimination law changes, and it has to do with a false belief that these problems will solve themselves naturally, and they'll reach economic justice when just left alone, rather than applying more laws to the free market. This isn't the case, and it hasn't served to be the case. Yet, at the same time, large policy changes haven't served as well as policy changes in the public sector. So there seems to be more progress when there are corrected pay scales for pay equity in states and in cities more so. So Colorado Springs, Los Angeles, San Jose, Minnesota, and Washington have all corrected their own pay scales for equity between job positions and titles. This tends to lower the gender wage gap between men and women by focusing it on a smaller area rather than large federal public policy changes. So some examples of women going to courts. Betty Dukes worked for Walmart in 2004, and she led the largest gender bias lawsuit in U.S. history. She felt that she experienced less pay than the men in her department, and she felt that because she was a woman, they delayed promotions for her. She brought this case all the way to the Supreme Court, where they denied it, unfortunately, but it was denied in 2011, and this was a pretty significant case for women in the courts. Some policy continued is the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which led to same wage to the same level of employees. So this prevented different employees to get different pay based on discrimination because it applied the same wage to the same level of employees. And then another one is the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This banned the discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So this was a landmark case for anti-discrimination in the workplace. So I'm going to talk about comparable worth, and this still applies to women in the workplace. So job level evaluation is based on 4 principles: knowledge and skills, mental demands, accountability, and working conditions. So there is a rating assigned to each category, and it's a score given to a job, and they will be evaluated in each of these 4 principles. So wages can be cross-checked with the rating. So if a job has the same rating as another job, if they are similar but they show consistent disparity in the amount that the employees are being paid, a lot of times advocates conclude that gender discrimination is the primary explanation of this data. So for example, if there's one job that has a rating of 10 and another job that has a rating of 10, if this job, the first job, is paid $50,000 and the other job with the same level of evaluation is paid $30,000, they can conclude that there is gender discrimination happening in this particular job position. So this prevents the lowering of pay for highly paid employees because the goal isn't to lower pay for high-ranking evaluated job positions, but it rather increases underpaid employees until there's parity in this position. So continuing on with vulnerable groups in the workplace, I'm going to move on to African Americans. And there is often lower household incomes than white Americans. Comparable level of education doesn't mean that they always receive equal earnings. So a white American has an average or a median weekly earning with a high school diploma of $969. So with the same degree of either a high school diploma or a GED, weekly earnings for African American citizens earn about $579 a week. This is a 17% wage gap between white and African Americans. So we can see that discrimination happens in the workplace because weekly earnings with the same level of education is uneven. So there's occupational segregation that occurs, and this means that African Americans are often underrepresented in higher paying occupations. So in other words, service jobs and other lower paying jobs is what we see most of them working in. Another point is that unemployment rates for African Americans is at 11.3%, whereas for white Americans it is at 5.3%. Another group that experiences economic discrimination in the workforce is Latino or Hispanic Americans. So Latino weekly earnings of $595 is compared to white weekly earnings of $969, like I said earlier, compared to African Americans. This is the weekly earnings with a high school diploma or a GED. So you can see that Latino and Hispanic Americans also experience wage gaps due to discrimination. So there is earned 15% less than the white workers with the same level of education. They are overrepresented in the lower paying service occupations. This includes production, transportation, as well as natural resource jobs, construction, and maintenance. This also applies to African Americans in the workplace. And this also means that they are underrepresented in higher paying occupations. The unemployment rate for Latino and Hispanic Americans is at 7.4%. Compared to the 5-ish% that white Americans experience. And this calls to the point that hard work does not always mean equal pay and economic security and good quality of life. There can be the same level of education earned, and we still see economic disparity in these vulnerable groups due to discrimination in the workplace. So there are 4 key provisions of U.S. labor policies that deal with equality in the workplace, and the 4 are laws that govern laws that govern wages and benefits, which include minimum wage. There are protective and anti-discrimination measures, which include child labor laws, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, and medical leave. There's also health and safety policies, which include OSHA and sexual harassment laws. And lastly, there are laws that govern employee discharges. So this means that they have to have notice of layoffs and closings.